I've got a bonus episode for you this week. Now, I know you've been listening to me and only me for the last 10 episodes, and I sort of told you it would be that way for the first season of the podcast, but this is 2020, and truly the only constant is change. So today's episode features, you guessed right, a guest. I'm going to have a conversation with my friend, mentee, and colleague Christine Belzie about the Learning and Development Conference. Matthew Richter of the Thiagi Group and Dr. Will Thalheimer of Work-Learning Research created the Learning and Development Conference. It was a pioneering L&D event designed to support human learning and action in the workflow. Over the course of 6 weeks, attendees were able to access both live and on-demand sessions, one-on-one sessions with experts, and so much more. When we get back from the break, I'm going to talk to Christine about her experience at the conference and dive a little deeper into what it's like to attend a conference for 6 weeks. Stay tuned. Welcome back to I'm New Here, a podcast for new instructional designers and e-learning developers. New episodes will be uploaded almost every Monday. Have a question you want answered on the show? Send an email to thenewhereshow@gmail.com. We have a very special guest. This is a special episode because the plan was for the first season of the podcast to just be a conversation between you and me. But something very special came up, and I wanted to talk about it with a mentee and somebody who's become quite a peer of mine, Christine Belzie. Christine, welcome to I'm New Here.
Thank you for having me, Nyla. I am such a huge fan of the podcast.
Oh, thank you. And I have to say, I'm really excited to talk to you about your experience with the Learning Conference, but also just as someone who has experienced the 100 IDs program and who I've seen grow so much as an ID in learning and development. I think this is a really great opportunity for us to, chat about that a little. So let's kick things off. The first thing I want to know is just a little bit about you and your background and your journey into instructional design. Tell us about how you found ID.
Well, um, I originally wanted to be a high school English teacher, but I found that it wasn't a natural fit and that I mostly enjoyed the curriculum development aspect of it. So after graduating college, I tried looking for positions where I could use my experience with education, but in a different way. Um, so I found technical writing and I thought that was interesting. But then I saw a forum that talked about how technical writing is different from instructional design. So I got curious about what instructional design is. So I did more research and here I am.
Yeah, that seems to be a path that most of us, walk on because we find some way that leads us to instructional design. It's rarely a direct path, right? But I don't know about you, but I'm happy I finally made it here, even though it was a long, winding road. So you are a part of my first 100 IDs cohort. Can you tell us real briefly, why did you decide to join that? And what are you hoping to get out of it?
I decided to join that to finally get help with building my portfolio, learning how to use authoring tools, and it was nice to join a community where women who look like me are planning to join the same field.
Oh, that really makes me happy to hear because that's exactly why I wanted to do this. And it's been great. And I think it also holds us all accountable to our goals. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you reach your goals in that group as well.
Mhm.
So let's move on to talking about the learning conference in particular. So when I first saw this popping up, I was like, a 6-week conference. Finally, something new in the conference world. But I was really interested to see how they were going to execute this. And I was given the opportunity to attend and also give passes to a few other people. And Christine, you're just someone who's been really dedicated to self improvement and career development. And so you were immediately one of the first people I thought of to get you in on this. So, from your point of view, give us a brief description of the Learning Conference.
Well, they offered a mixture of live sessions and on-demand sessions, which was a really interesting experience. It really enabled me to explore different parts of learning and development, and it was great. As someone who was very new to this industry, I was very concerned that I would be out of place there since it was filled with so many veterans. And from the moment I got in there, they were very welcoming and they didn't hesitate to reach out to give me tips on how to navigate this experience.
Yeah, that's a great thing about our community is like even if it's your first conference or first, you know, ATD meeting or first webinar, it always does feel like it's immediately a friendly environment where it's okay to learn or mess up or ask questions that you're worried about asking in public. And I think that's great that the Learning and Development Conference was able to be that open for you. So tell me, what were your top three takeaways from all the sessions you were able to attend?
Ooh, that is a very interesting question.
Well, let's
Uh,
start with this. How many sessions were you able to attend over the 6 weeks?
Oh boy. I attended the Intro to Learning Science 101 session. I attended the Women in Learning panel. I also attended the Power of Storytelling, and then I also attended a webinar called PowerPoint Digital Design Superpowers and Hidden in Plain Sight. It was very informative. Um, the major takeaway I got from the webinar on storytelling is the I learned about the story spine structure, which originally came from Pixar,
Hmm.
and and it's used to flesh out a story's beginning, middle, and ending with cue words such as once upon a time, every day, but one day, which breaks down the routine because of that in more detail. And then until finally, which is the climax. And then there's ever since then, which brings out a new routine or resolution. And I thought that was very, very, very interesting. And I can see myself using that model for for writing engaging learning scenarios.
Right. And I know as you're one of the few people I know that is really attuned to the writing portion of instructional design. And I think that's really an important part of it that some people overlook. So I can hear how important that session was to you because of the nature of storytelling. And talk to me a little bit more about wanting to be a writer in L&D. Have you found it to be kind of tricky to find your place because of that? And did anything from the Learning and Development Conference help you kind of carve out more of a space for yourself as a writer?
Um, I'm still trying to find my place, but as far as the learning conference, especially that particular webinar, it really gave me a method that I could use to create engaging material.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really great. And there's been definitely a shift to talk more about writing specifically because of storytelling.
Mhm.
There's a few new books out specifically on storytelling. And I think that you're in a perfect position to really transition into that and really be the champion for good storytelling and writing and instructional design. Because I think a lot of times we rely on the SME to do the writing for us or even the client or stakeholder. And I think that, Christine, if you can really position yourself as a performance consultant who knows how to craft a good story, you're going to have something really special.
Hmm. And another thing that I find helpful with that is to use an interdisciplinary approach.
Hmm.
For the past few days, I have been attending something called Disney Week for the rise of animation. It has been a panel where um, people from big studios like Walt Disney Animation, Pixar, and Marvel, just to name a few, they all come together and give aspiring animators advice on how to break into the industry. And one webinar I went to was led by Michael Herrera. He storyboarded a few of the scenes in the movie Ralph Breaks the Internet. I don't know if you're
Oh,
into
yeah.
that
That's
movie.
cool.
And one thing that stood out to me was he talked about how it's important when developing characters, the character design um, seems to emulate what the character is actually feeling.
Hmm.
So you have a character that is angry, so you create a design that emulates that.
Wow. So how did you find that? And how did you decide that, this would be good for you? I love that interdisciplinary approach.
Um, Simply put, it was on a LinkedIn. It was posted on LinkedIn, and me being a huge Disney fan, I just had to attend.
That's awesome. I really like you. I think coming from a writing background and a technical writing background, and a lot of us are like this, we come from other places, but we get so involved in L&D that we sometimes forget to pull from those other sources. And it's great to hear people pulling from their marketing background, from their writing background to make what they do more effective. So I think that's great. And I did see you shared the Disney link somewhere. I don't know if there'll be recordings after, but I'll definitely drop some links to that in the show notes.
They have a YouTube channel, I think.
Mhm.
Some of the webinars weren't recorded, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, combining all of these conferences and workshops, they're just great opportunities to really push the boundaries of what you already know.
Mhm.
So before we close out, I always like to talk about where conferences can improve. What are opportunities for improvement? I've been to a few that have done a really great job, but they always want to know how they can do things better. And this is the first iteration of this conference, the Learning and Development Conference. So what were some opportunities for improvement that you may have, or what would you like to see next time if they do this again?
Well, I would definitely like to see more accessi- accessibility options. Like when
Hmm.
I was watching the videos that the speakers presented, there was no closed captioning. Um, some of the sources that they put weren't downloadable, and I can imagine being a learner with a learning disability just wanting that information but not being able to truly enjoy what they're learning due to not having the tool to give them enable them to gain access to that material.
Yeah, and I think a lot of conferences have that issue. It's a lot to organize, and I think accessibility sometimes falls as an afterthought. But if we just put it at the as a core part of planning, you won't have those kind of issues. I think that's a really great opportunity for improvement next time, especially as we go totally virtual.
Mhm.
So before we close up, is there anything you want to say about what really blew you away about the Learning Development Conference, or about the opportunity to attend over the course of 6 weeks, or anything like that?
Um, and what really blew me away is the camaraderie amongst the attendees and the humor that they have. Everybody was sharing what they were learning, and what they liked about it, and the two presenters, Will and Michael, they were really great. So and I highly recommend anybody to attend them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Christine, for talking to me today about the Learning and Development Conference. I really appreciate your time. And thank you for everything you've done to help make my initiative successful, sharing links and resources with everyone. I'm really excited to see your growth as an L&D professional.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be on your show.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everyone for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of I'm New Here.